Okay, lords and ladies, there has in fact been news on the Vampire Bloodlines 2 front, news that is fairly interesting, all things considered. The big news is that, number one, PlayStation people who had pre-ordered the game, the premium version back in the day, they're going to be getting refunds. And number two, Paradox, or the Chinese Room, it's hard to discern which one, has responded to people's complaints, dismay, concerns about the very expensive 30 USD or even more paid day one DLC, and they're going to be letting the public know on the 17th of this month of September in the year of Zeus 2025. So basically within a week and a half, give or take. And I wonder what they're up to. Now, I'll say what I think at the outset. I think basically what happened was that the backlash was so extreme and so obvious they couldn't ignore it. And like all corpos do, they got worried about the numbers, the sales numbers. And I think really what's at play here is fundamentally this notion that you can attempt to nickel and dime people. And yeah, maybe some people would have spent the $30 on this day one DLC. It's entirely plausible. But the reality is, at the end of the day, that goodwill and good vibes, so to speak, pay for games a lot better than overpriced DLC that should not even be DLC. Now, I get it in some sense because, look, Bloodlines 2 has been a development disaster, right? The original team, Hardsuit Labs, was fired, including the original writer, Brian Soda, and it's been in development hell for a very long time indeed. But the way to recoup your losses is not to hide important classes / in this case, clans behind day one paid DLC, which is super expensive. And I think in the long run, goodwill is going to serve their purposes a lot better than simply hoping that some people with too much money to burn might end up spending that extra money on the DLC. Now, we don't have any official news in terms of what they're going to do yet. We're going to find that out, like I said, on the 17th of this month. But if I had to hazard a guess, and this is just me speculating, what's going to happen is La Sombra will still be locked behind DLC because La Sombra was not a playable clan back in the day. And there are reasons for this related to lore and what have you. Vampire the Masquerade World of Darkness has been in a topsy-turvy state for a very long time. So the lore right now is in many ways radically different from what it was back in the day. I personally don't like a lot of the changes. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point in time. But nonetheless, La Sombra was not part of the original game for obvious reasons. So La Sombra, my prediction, will still be DLC. But Toreador, who have always been Camarilla, Toreador, who have been, well, one of the most popular clans for obvious reasons because they tend to fulfill that sort of sexy, seductive vampire fantasy. They've never been my favorite clan by any means. I'm not really into them. I don't really have a favorite, but it's definitely not Toreador. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. But you never know. This is Paradox we're talking about. They might try to nickel and dime you in a different way. It's entirely possible. I would not exclude that as a possibility. Now, the final thing I want to say is there have been a lot of people that had hands-on experience talking about the game. And the most charitable interpretation or take I have heard is that had this game been called something else, something different, not Bloodlines 2, the game probably would have been received a lot better. Now, it goes without saying the reason why they're calling it Bloodlines 2 is, well, because of nostalgia and because it invokes the old game. And yeah, it's obvious, patently obvious. But calling it Bloodlines 2 with the massive deviations from the original, barring the possibility that's amazing, and I really doubt it is amazing, it tends to put a bad taste in your mouth. And look, this is a thing that also happened with BG3. I remember when BG3 was first announced, right? Way back in, I think, 2021. Time does indeed fly. There were some, how shall I put it, purists, if you want to call them that, who were just fundamentally completely against the idea of Valerian's version of Baldur's Gate 3 because it was not isometric in the real-time with pause manner that the old Baldur's Gate games were. And the fact that the game looked different and it was using basically the Divinity engine and so on and so forth. So there are always going to be purists who are going to be upset. I think in this case, it's a little bit more justified because we just don't know how the game is. But it's possible this game could be good. I just don't think it's going to be an RPG. At the very least, BG3 is an RPG/CRPG in the spirit of the original Baldur's Gate games, and it's very obvious as well that Sven and his team had a lot of reverence and respect for the original Baldur's Gate games. So it's a bit different here. But yeah, like I said, in order to be fair to the Chinese room, I will say it's possible this game still could be good, but you better forget that it's anything resembling an RPG. You might have fun with it. I don't know. I am undecided as to whether or not I will actually get this game and play it, just because it feels like such a departure from the original, and that doesn't sit particularly well with me, as it does not with many other people, but you never know. I think this game is up in the air. We just don't know. But at the very least, the Chinese room / Paradox should be addressing these issues revolving around this expensive DLC. We'll just see what happens. But I don't want to make this video too long. So as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you like my content and you like my takes, you can leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. It's much appreciated, as it does help out with the channel. And I will check you out next time. Take care.